The Wheel of Fortune is the first of 3 cards in the set, which I am aligning with the path of power. And this first card is the principle of freedom. And we have within the Wheel of Fortune a fairly simple principle that everything changes. It's one of the most obvious things that we learn on a very deep level, very early in life, is that it gets dark at night, and then there's light in the morning. It gets colder and warmer, we get hungrier and well fed, and things move on all the time, moving on and on and on, and summer is always followed by winter and so on. And that is very profound wisdom, even though it's trite to say that life is change. But it's worth noticing that we don't adapt very well to that wisdom. And most people really behave without the wisdom contained within the idea, this too shall pass. It is suggested that victorious Roman emperors would have a slave ride beside them as they were doing their chariot procession and showing off to the Romans how successful they've been. The slave would whisper in the ear of the emperor, this too shall pass, warning us not to get too lost in our successes. Also, not to get too lost in our demise either. We have to find the courage to believe that our difficulties have duration as well as our successes, and try to find a way, a strategy, a life principle that works despite the fact that everything changes. Now, this is the key to life, and this is the key to power. If you want your power to be real and have duration and align with yourself rather than your circumstances, then you have to understand this whole thing of the Wheel of Fortune. Most people go for a situation. They think that when I have this particular position in life, I have my qualification, or I have my position with my employer, or I'm happily married with several kids in a nice big house and a few cars in the garden, whatever it is that you have, then I'll be okay. Well, it just isn't true. It's false on every level imaginable. It's the ultimate illusion that we have to deal with in order to be free of delusion. It's a lie. Fame and fortune is a lie. It just seduces the ego into believing something that just is not. Those trappings of power, fame and fortune and so on, reputation, are devices to blind you from real power. If you want power, it has to be real or it isn't power. Because that power which can be taken, that can be lost by the turning of the Wheel of Fortune, that power is not power. It's a lie. So what we have to do, and this is what the Wheel of Fortune is teaching, we have to come to terms with the ephemeral nature of life. There is no duration in life. It does not exist. Time is also a lie. It's a glamour. It's a device that we use to slow down consciousness so that we can actually understand that which takes us time to understand. If we were evolved into a high level of consciousness where we could see everything immediately, we wouldn't need time. We need time because we're not at that level of consciousness. Therefore, we have to contemplate the past as though it existed. And we have to anticipate and make strategies about the future as if it existed. Whereas the present moment, here and now, is what exists and everything else is not. And if we were only to see it in an enlightened consciousness, then we would see that this leads to that, this comes from that, and the future and the past are just radiant expressions of the present. ways of understanding the present more deeply. That's what we have to come to terms with. And here we are, incarnated into a world which is bound up by the wheel of fortune, bound up by time, having past and future, and structuring the thinking of the minds of the whole world, notwithstanding the cleverness of physicists to understand the point that we're making on a material level, notwithstanding the mystics who really do understand this. Nonetheless, the whole of the world is structured upon the idea that there will be a change, and that will maybe suit you well. Maybe there are times when you go up and times when you go down, and there'll be times in between where you're trying to negotiate which way you're going. This is the nature of life for most of us, in fact, almost all of us. Only the realized people, a very high level of realization, will be living in the moment. But that is the lesson here, how to live in the moment. Now, to do this, we need superpowers, really. I'll come to explain what I mean by that. And it's not only ridiculing cartoons. It's more than that. The superpowers that we need are threefold, and that's the whole series of teachings here. This series of discussions on the tarot are making one point, really, that there is threeness. And when we understand threeness, we can get it all. We understand everything that we need to. And basically that threeness is the first expression of unity, oneness. So oneness first divides into threeness. In other words, the yang and the yin and the relationship between them, the Tao, the man and the woman and the relationship between them, the child or creative project perhaps, the push and the pull and the relationship between them, the negotiation, the reconciliation, the harmonious reconciliation of push and pull, the push of the past meeting the pull of the future, here and now. This is where the center of creativity is. That secret of threeness is contained, for argument's sake and for understanding's sake and for my sake. I determine that when I study threeness, I choose to study it with these words: freedom, evolution, creativity. That's not truth. That's my opinion. That's my useful model. And it works for me. And it might work for you. It might be helpful for a while for you until you ditch it in favor of something better. Whatever. We study this threeness principle, we start to understand what we did not understand before, in my experience. And the Wheel of Fortune is the principle of freedom. In other words, we are free to change. We are free to let go of what was important yesterday. We are free to take up something which is more important today. If we did not have that freedom, then we would be locked in time. Now, these superpowers that we need are freedom, evolution, and creativity. Those three superpowers are all and everything. And they're not fanciful. The nomenclature maybe is a bit of a joke, but if you are free, if you are evolving, and who is not, if you are creative, and who is not, then you have everything you want. You can get anything that you want, and you can resist anything you don't want. That's what power is. Getting your own way, resisting others' push upon you. You don't get bullied if you're powerful. You don't get bored if you're powerful. You don't miss out if you're powerful. Powerful is how to make your own destiny up. Now, it is taught in traditional interpretations of tarot that the Wheel of Fortune represents the principle of destiny. Like, you're born with karma, which kind of means bad karma, according to most people's interpretations, and what the Christians like to call original sin. Bad karma, original sin, can't see the difference. And we've got that to work out. That's the teachings across the globe. I don't get that. I don't see that at all. That doesn't make me feel free, that teaching. That makes me feel imprisoned. Therefore, I deduce and affirm and insist it's wrong, because any teaching which makes me feel imprisoned isn't for me. I affirm freedom. I claim freedom. And I practice freedom. That's worth thinking about. You've got to claim something, affirm something, and practice something, or it's not yours. Now, I want, and I claim, and I affirm, and I practice the superpower of freedom. And I'll tell you in a minute how I came to learn how to do that. Now, I also claim and affirm and practice the superpower of evolution. I'll come to that and explain how I learned that one as well. And I also claim and affirm and practice the principle of creativity. And that comes from a different explanation. And you will see how I am now using the words claim, affirm, practice repeatedly in order for me to claim them and affirm them and practice them, these ideas, and get you to do the same thing. Repetition, practice. That's a very important part of this teaching. So, how to claim these superpowers? Those of us involved in this video are probably able to understand what transits mean. Mostly astrologers, I would say, who participate in this study. And almost every commentary I get from people about outer planet transits, everyone almost is negative. Oh my God, I've got a Pluto transit going on, what will I do? Even a Saturn transit, I get that before Saturn returns. Oh my God, what will I do? It's like, well, you claim it, you claim this superpower. If Pluto is transiting any one of your major angles or lights, basically, it can be extended, but let's take the lights, the sun and the moon in other words, and the angles ascendant, and therefore descendant, midheaven and therefore nadir, the angles and the lights, when they're being transited by any one of the three outer planets, the Holy Trinity of Astrology, then you're being offered a superpower. Here is the chance for you to claim it. Now, here's a clue. If you don't want it, you can't have it. If it's offered to you and you're afraid of it and you would rather be the other side of it and not go through it at all, then you're refusing the superpower. Then you can't expect to have it later because you've refused it. That was your choice. And that actually is what destiny is, the idea that destiny is given to us by karma. I refute that. Karma is the opportunity we have to notice what we can do to improve. Only that. Our destiny is what we will get if we don't make another different creative decision. Each decision that we make, and I don't mean choice, I don't mean vague preference, I mean decision, like cutting away, incision, decision, cutting away. No, that's not me, a decision. Yes, that is me, a decision. Come what may, against the odds. Even if I have to fight for it, I'm doing that. I'm not that. That level of selection of yourself is what creates your destiny. And until you make another similar dimensional decision, then your destiny is written for you and you'll work it out. You'll live that out, which is what you want to do because you want to study that decision. You make a decision and then you study it, and that's your destiny. And then you think, I don't want this destiny anymore, so you can make a different decision with one of your superpowers. Now, a Uranus transit is going to teach you the extent to which you have not claimed the superpower called freedom. And Uranus is absolutely delightful for somebody who has claimed freedom. I'm going through one right now. Uranus is crossing my Sun, nadir, Mars, and soon my Moon in Taurus. It's wonderful. I am so energized and made more free. My mind is freed up to understand things differently, so differently. Because freedom has always been important to me, and so I'm ready for a Uranus transit. Now, other people having a Uranus transit are shockingly moved to claim their freedom, whether they like it or not. And if they don't like it, then they'll refuse to claim their freedom. And Uranus would just blast their life situation out of the water. No, you can't have that. That's not you. You can't have it. You had the freedom to choose differently. You didn't choose it. Now I'm going to choose for you. That's when you get shocking Uranus transits. But if you just know that now freedom is on the cards, then you claim it and you behave as if you are free. Not just a little bit freer than before. That's not what it means. It means completely free, utterly free. It's one of three fundamental archetypes. This is more powerful on the level of spiritual consciousness than archangels. There are more than three archangels. There are only three fundamental archetypes. So freedom is just like as big a thing as you can get south of God. So we're not talking about a little bit freer than before. I think I'd prefer this to eat. I think I'd like to go to that movie. That's not what we're talking about. It's like, no, that's wrong. I'm not having it. And on the level of, look, I'm having to do a job here that I don't like. That can't be right. That is not freedom. I'm not having it. I'm with this woman and I don't like her. I don't like what she is. I'm not having it anymore. I'm caught up in this financial trap. I'm not having it anymore. I'm free. Now, those of you who think, yes, but, you've already lost. Yes, but doesn't work. Yes, that works. Having the faith to be free, that works. Requiring insurance policies and plan Bs, that doesn't. That's not what Uranus does. Now, if you want to evolve, in other words, grow, and everything alive is growing, but whether you want to grow imperceptibly, a little by little, from birth to death, so you're bored most of the time and nothing much happens, but you have some experiences, you can do that. But if you really want to grow and you're excited enough to wonder, what's the next level like? What if I was at a higher level of consciousness than I am now? What if I had more energy, more courage, more faith? What then? What would life be then? I mean, it's amazing now. What would it be like if I was more so? I want to evolve. Now, involvement and evolving, they're related. So if you want to enjoy evolution, you have to enjoy involution or involvement. You have to involve yourself in situations. You have to take responsibilities. You have to claim power and influence. You have to make a difference. You have to deal with powerful people. And in my experience, there's, let's say, 10% of the horoscope clients that I interview have a strong Pluto. Let's just arbitrarily say that that is what determines their power, interest and level. So it is also my experience that those of us like myself who have emphasized Pluto in their chart, like it might be an aspect of the sun or the moon or the angles, a Pluto like that, or it might be aspected to a lot of your planets. If you have such a Pluto, you're a Pluto type of person. Pluto people tend only to get along with other Pluto type people. And that's because it's just too intense otherwise. I'm intense because I'm a Pluto person, therefore people who are not intense, who are not Pluto people, they don't like me. I'm too much for them. But equally, I don't really like them because they just fold instead of coming back and giving me some grit to deal with. I like it when I engage with people because I'm a Pluto person. And that's what Pluto transits will deliver to people who are not normally Pluto people. To Pluto type people, the Pluto transit just makes them more so, and they tend to like it. They tend to claim, affirm, and practice Pluto consciousness, even more so during a Pluto transit, which means that you deal with the deepest possible level of self, who you are at a deep level. You might change your religion, you might change your sexual orientation, you might change everything about what your faith is based on, whether it's religion or money or self-importance or whatever. On the very deep level, you might wake up to a version of yourself that's a different template for life. And based on that template, you do different things. You meet different people. You have different strategies, different decision choices. You evolve by getting involved in intense situations with probably other intense people. So you probably fill your life with Pluto people. And they're not all good, and none of them are safe. You know, this isn't a moral question at all. You're in harm's way when you're dealing with Pluto consciousness, unless you know how to get out of harm's way. And there is the deepest wisdom. Evolution is inevitable, but inevitably it's going to move you into harm's way. That's how it works. It might not be you that's subject to danger. It might be the person who's coming up against you, but someone is in harm's way when Pluto things are going on. It kills you if you don't do the right thing. That's what Pluto's all about. Or it gives you a baby to deal with, you know, the other end of the scale. You're in a casual relationship, you take somebody home on a Friday night, and a baby is born. Well, that's Pluto, you know. So it's serious stuff, and that's how you evolve. And it's a superpower if you actually understand that Pluto is all or nothing. And if you don't give all, then you will end up with nothing, possibly. That's hyperbole probably, but it's useful to think about it. Now, the superpower of creativity is the muse, we call her. We give her a feminine name, the muse, the spirit of inspiration. And it's not others, it's ourselves at the higher level. All of these energies are the same. They're ourselves at the higher level. Each of us has a dimension of self which is at the highest level, and all of the levels down. So we each have a bit of ourselves which is God, and a bit of ourselves which is the archangel of freedom, and the archangel of creativity, and the archangel of evolution. So Neptune is that muse energy, the spirit of inspiration, and we kind of come close to it sometimes when we're doing brainstorming exercises. If you know that you want to do something differently, rather than decide what that is, the first exercise would be better as a brainstorming exercise. And the rules of brainstorming are that you just write everything down on paper that you can think of. And it doesn't matter whether it's stupid or silly or right or wrong or nothing to do with the topic in hand. You just allow yourself to dump all of your arising thoughts onto a bit of paper. Preferably in a group, but sometimes a group limits that because you're witnessed. It might be better to do it alone, but if you can do it with others, you get better results. So let's say you're thinking, where will I go on holiday? And I might put down red, orange, squirrel, Puerto Rico, accountancy. I might just dump silly words on paper that seem total nonsense. But then looking back, you'll see that there is an underlying wisdom there. I might connect the colour red with eating of an orange, which I did when I was a trainee accountant, talking to a man who came from Puerto Rico, and then I get this, yes, I need to write a book about, I might have that series of connections. We don't understand brainstorming. And Neptune transits are like that. They present us with a model of reality, a glamour of life, which makes us see it in our own way, uniquely. Nobody else can see what we can see during our Neptune transit. And we look stupid. We look out of kilter with everything. We may be doing drugs or drunk all the time, or lost in our own feelings of depression, or doing artworks or poetry or making music, so that where we are is a state of being that actually no one else can replicate. We move into the place where we are exactly unique on a very high level. That's what Neptune gives us. Now, we can't bring that down, but we want to. And bringing it down means giving it form. The act of bridging between the muse, Neptune's inspired nonsense, the illusion of anything goes and everything is possible, the kaleidoscope of life possibilities for all and everyone forever. That's Neptune. But it doesn't have duration. If you've got one of these little children's toys, the kaleidoscope, you turn it and then there's one pattern, you turn it again, there's another pattern, and you keep on turning it. You can never replicate any of those patterns. It's an infinite choice of possibilities. That's what Neptune delivers. It offers you a quantum reality, and you can choose any one of those possibilities that you can imagine, but not more than one, and not for any duration. So as soon as you've chosen one, there's another, and another, and another, and another, and we don't ever have stability or duration. That's what Neptune is delivering. So it's only to do with how we feel right now, because we can't validate anything by measurement, and we can't claim it to be true. It's not true, but then nothing is true, so it is true. It's a paradox. Now, Neptune transits deliver that line of thinking to your normal Saturn structured life, where I get up in the morning and I go to work and I receive this amount of money and I buy that food to pay that child to go to, it's Saturnine. There's cause and effect. I do this for that reason. And Neptune says, no, it's just not real. Now, that's scary for most people. But if you're a Neptunian type of person, or, and this is the point of this video, you're willing to claim, affirm, and practice the Neptune superpower, that's all fine. So what? I do this, somebody wags their finger at me, oh well, so what? It doesn't matter, because that which is predicted to happen never happens. Not quite the way it's predicted. It might happen similarly, but not exactly that way. And if you have the superpower of Neptune, any situation, every situation, is subject to your choice of perception. That's what creativity in the end is. It's a choice of perception. We create our perception of what we're experiencing right now. That's the most fundamental creativity that there is. We're not talking about making paintings or writing songs. We're talking about creating our lives. And nobody else does it our way. And we don't even do it our way for any replicated duration. So the superpower of creativity is knowing that in this moment, nothing is the way it seems, and nothing has duration. And so we have to make it all up. There's no choice, so we might as well do it the way we feel we'd like to do it. That's Neptune. That's creativity. Pluto, life is change. Change is growth. Right now you're going through a period of change. Do you want that to be slow and boring or exciting? And the difference is whether or not you're involved intensely. And the more intense involvement that you have, the more quickly you evolve to a higher dimension of being. Uranus, you think you're free? You're not. Here's freedom. Get on with it. Do it now. Claim it now. Now, these three superpowers are available to all of us at all times. However, during astrological transits, which we can know about by reading the timing in a book, we can be told when is the right time to strike and what attitude of striking we take. If it's a Pluto transit, get involved or escape an involvement. One of those two. And enable yourself to become more than you ever dreamt before. Dreaming. Neptune's job. How is it? How's reality right now? How would you like it to be, sir? What would you like this to mean? If you're in a relationship with somebody, any kind of relationship, what would you like it to be like? affirm that that is the case. And that creative affirmation is the practice of creativity. That will make it so. You can bend situations to your choice by affirming that they are that way. That's the secret of Neptune. And freedom, well, you just behave spontaneously, immediately, and you just do whatever you choose to do. Now, you have to take into account that there will be a kickback, and you might not want to jump off the top of a skyscraper to see if you can fly, because being able to fly might only last a few seconds, and then you've got to deal with the implications of your choices, which you wouldn't want. So you've got to be responsible as you're free. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It is the exaltation of responsibility. Anarchism is the highest form of government because there is no government. Everybody works towards communal well-being, so they don't need to be told what to do. You just help the person you're with right now. You do everything you can to serve the joint needs that each of you collectively has as a togetherness. Then you're an anarchist. That's the highest level of freedom and creativity and evolution put together. So, the Wheel of Fortune is to do with our understanding that everything is change, and therefore we can make it all up our own way, and that is the path of growth. The essential meaning of the Wheel of Fortune, therefore, is this, that since everything is changing, where you have put and invested your sense of security, and your sense of identity, and your sense of strategic future planning, where you've put that, is actually shifting sands. It won't be that way. You've put savings in the bank and then there's hyperinflation. You've lost your money. You've bought a property and then they build a motorway through your land. You've got plans for your offspring. You want that one to be a lawyer and that one to be a nurse and so on, and they don't want that. They want something else, and you've lost your vicarious enjoyment of that which you didn't work out for yourself. Nothing ever works out the way you want it to be. Now here's the fundamental question then. Where do you put your faith? If you can't put your faith in life because it's just not reliable, where do you put your faith? And this is perhaps the most fundamental question that we all have to deal with in our lives. Where do we put our faith? Now, some people choose wrongly to put their faith in money and positions of power. That's the whole story here. Others people choose to put it in religion. If you do that, everything will work out. Now, that's possibly better, but you're still following somebody else's ideas about what's good, what will work. Now, you might not agree with either of those two things. It might not be leading to a good outcome, and it might not work. It's not obvious to me that religion has worked. There's still religious war going on, which seems to be proof that it doesn't work. Anyway, what do you put your faith in then? It must, in the end, be the only thing that does not change. What is that? Now, there is the mystery of all mysteries. What is it within yourself that you can claim and identify with and have and hold and be that doesn't change? And if you actually look for that, you just try and find out what in yourself never changes. And you work out what that is, then you've mastered the secret to life. Now, if I told you what that was, I would rob you of the opportunity to earn it for yourself. I've worked that out. I know what it is within me that never changes. And so, whatever goes on outside of myself, it doesn't really bother me deeply. It'll upset my mood for a few hours and maybe even a day, but not usually more than that, because I know what is me, the I am of my being. I know what that is, and it's for you to choose, for you to decide, for you to discover what is the I am of your being, and that's your unity point, I would call that, where the three archetypes of the Holy Trinity are simultaneously, equally operating. When you've got all of those three things, creativity, freedom, evolution, all operating simultaneously, that's the unity point. And when you can find out what that is within yourself as a beingness, then there you go. Well done. You've reached your goal.